Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is our very favorite time. And that time is, it is time to make people angry because we are ranking Big Ten coaches and going through this list. It's like, I know what the average person would put down in terms of ranking on a lot of these people. And I'm going to probably have some differences of opinions in a few spots. And so that'll be fun. I'm interested to see if you are in agreement with me or if you are a coward.
Am I in agreement with you or am I completely wrong? So we'll go ahead and we'll just go back and forth with number 10, number 9, number 8, and all the way down to number 1, which will be Matt Campbell. I'm going to give you my number 10 guy, and that's PJ Fleck, because I do appreciate what he has done at Minnesota. He may be the second longest tenured coach right now in the Big Ten behind Kirk Ferentz. So I went with him, number 10. I think could he do more with more? Sure. But I think that might also be flying too close to the sun for him. I think he's in a good spot right now. And that's why he's chosen to stay, assuming he could have opted to leave after one or two of his good years.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And he's certainly someone I had. He would be in my others receiving votes category. He's at a program where the resources are what the resources are. And it feels like he gets at least what you would expect based on the resources. And sometimes it's a little more than that. It's usually not less than that. It's just kind of, yep, this guy is, he's an above average coach at a place where average results are kind of the expectation. And Minnesota is a school where you'd love to see, like, if Minnesota decided to do what Indiana wanted to do, and I mean, they could theoretically, it's not dissimilar from Indiana, where they don't have the in-state talent that a lot of other Big Ten schools have. They don't have the football history, at least in the last 50 years or so. They don't have, the resources dedicated. If they really decided they want to sink a ton of money into football, I'd be interested to see what PJ Fleck could do with that. Because, I think the paradigm for what the Big Ten have-nots can potentially be has changed a little bit over the last year, or year or two. But yeah, I think he does a decent amount with what he's got. My number 10 is Matt Rhule, and Matt Rhule is, I'm kind of grading. I think if you took Matt Rhule at the time that Nebraska hired him, he would have been about 6th on this list. He has had a couple previous stops, Temple, Baylor, where it was 3 years and it was like bing, boom, boom, and bing, bang, boom. And all of a sudden they're like a 10-win team. Hasn't gotten there yet with Nebraska. I don't think I don't know that he's going to get there with Nebraska, but I think that he also does a pretty good job with what he's got. And that is a Nebraska program that was really, 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 really down when he got there. And he's gotten them at least back off the mat to, about where Minnesota is.
Yeah, I don't have him on my list, and that was surprised me when I'm like putting this together. It's like, because there's some good coaches left off this list for the first time in Big Ten history, where you put together a top 10 list and it's like, wow, I left some good coaches off of here. Usually you're like at 6, you're like, I wouldn't hire number 7 if my life depended on it, but I did not have him on my list. I just want to see more. And right now they're just limited. My number 9 is Jedd Fisch at Washington, who's had a good enough history at Arizona, then also doing well enough at Washington. As I look at this now, and I'm like, I could make the argument that Barry Odom is better than Jedd Fisch, but Barry Odom has lost a job somewhere. Like, I think there are guys that maybe I'm just fooled by his shining or his tan skin, perhaps, but he's a guy that gets mentioned for better jobs. So I think in that way, I'm going to assume people think he's worthy of them. So he's my number 9.
I had him and Matt Rhule as very, very close, very, very similar, and ended up going with Rhule 10 and Fisch 11. So yeah, he narrowly missed it, but I don't disagree with anything you said there. My number 9, this is going to be the first that is like way off the board. Tony, who is the way off the board name that I'm going to say number 9?
Well, he might be my number 7. So we'll see if we're still in the same agreement.
I'll tell you what.
But yeah,
Bob Chesney.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, and you know what? I thought I can't put him higher than 9. That because
I
people are
don't
going to
know. Yeah.
go. If it was up to me, I probably would have had him more like 7. But Bob Chesney has just that dude wins. That guy wins everywhere he's been. He won at small private colleges. He won at Salve Regina, which is in Rhode Island, I think. He won at Holy
We all know.
Cross. He won which is in Worcester, Massachusetts. He won at James Madison. He took over for Curt Cignetti and just kept winning at James Madison after Curt Cignetti basically loaded everyone in the Mayflower moving vans and drove them to Indiana. And so, yeah, I have him 9 because if you look up any, most of these other, like, the national lists on this, it's like, oh, well, you don't know what you got with him. It's like, I think I know what you have with him. And if you're asking me, where is Bob Chesney coaching in 2030? Either UCLA has sunk a whole lot of money into their program and is finally awoken from the sleeping giant, or Bob Chesney is coaching at one of the real shiny brand name Midwestern big boy schools in the Big Ten. I think where he is right now is the absolute floor of where he's going to be in the next 5-10 years.
I like the fact that you're probably a little jealous of my answer then on that one, because
A little bit.
just seeing him recruit the way he's doing it right now, and everybody seems to love him. Can you win at UCLA? Others have sort of won there. We'll see if he can do it consistently, which is always the big question. My number 8, my number 8 is one of my favorite coaches, Bret Bielema. I think there are times where he'd be higher on this list. Illinois took a step back. So when he's got expectations, sometimes he drops down. When you're not expecting anything, boom, he's like a cobra in a Michigan carryout. You'd never expect one. Boom, right in your face. So he's like he's a Michigan carryout cobra.
You expect King Cobra at a Michigan carryout. So that's, it's not totally unexpected. Yeah, Bielema, I don't disagree with anything you have here. I have him one spot higher, but I don't disagree. He is, one of my favorite coaches to talk to at Big Ten Media Days every year. Just a consistent winner. He's another guy who's a little like Fleck, where I'd love to see if Illinois really decided to sink some real serious money, real serious resources into that program. I'd be interested to see what it could be. My number 8, and boy, I'm really annoyed that I didn't flip-flop my number 9 and my number 8, because I know who I think the best coach in Los Angeles is, and I don't really think it's Lincoln Riley, but Lincoln Riley is my number 8, and but he's led all these teams to the playoff, and how Lincoln Riley playoff record. Go ahead, Google that for a moment and tell me how it's going for him. And it just feels like he's had a lot to work with everywhere he's been. And boy, the results have been, you sure do get to the dance. And then what happens? Like, well, and then maybe you don't always get to the dance. And boy, he's been at USC for a while. And boy, they are at the point of the process where Wisconsin is, where it's like, well, we don't want to fire this guy, so we're going to throw a whole bunch of money at the roster and see if we can keep him around. And yeah, maybe, I don't know. He kind of ran from the competition when Oklahoma was joining the SEC, kind of running from the competition with the USC Notre Dame thing. Like, I don't love his whole ethos, and the results are not quite as shiny as the reputation would suggest.
Still kind of waiting for him to recruit a quarterback and develop that guy as well. He's a Heisman producer in terms of getting guys to transfer in, and then he does something. Although I guess maybe Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
He signed him at Oklahoma.
Yes. And
so
yeah.
There's that.
He gets credit for Caleb Williams, and he was what, the OC when Baker Mayfield was at Oklahoma. But the results are just the results are pretty good, and you're at USC, and there's a lot of resources there, and boy, there's a lot of history there, and boy, there's a lot of, and it's just kind of like, what? Boy, there's a lot of Las Vegas bowls there. Like, it's not what you'd necessarily think. And I think if they have another year where they miss the playoff this year, he might be might be looking for another landing spot.
Well, you're just wondering where Bob Chesney might be in 2030. It might be next door.
Yeah.
So my 7 is Bob Chesney, and we've talked about him. And I think there's every reason in the world to be high on him right now because, boy, he hasn't lost yet. So this is huge for him. Things are going great. We've talked about him. And we know your 7 was Bret Bielema.
Yep, we can just go right ahead. Yep.
So my 6 is Lincoln Riley, and as you're saying, I don't think Lincoln Riley is the best head coach in California, or in LA, and I'm like, I don't know that he is either. But on my list, he is.
Mm-hmm.
I've got him 6. I really think they're going to be good this year. I think they should be a playoff team this year, and if it doesn't happen this year, then finally I will go ahead and I'll back off and say, yeah, he is the fraud that a lot of people think he is. So I get Lincoln Riley at 6.
Yeah, and yes, they should make the playoff this year. Will they make the playoff is the actual interesting question there, and we'll see. And if they beat Ohio State this year and they make the playoff, and I don't remember what the rest of their schedule looks like. I know they're not playing Notre Dame, so they should. If you can't make it this year, then it may be time to explore other options. My next one is Kirk Ferentz, and this is a little bit of a lifetime achievement award where if you don't remember what Iowa was like at the end of the Hayden Fry era, like, man, oh man, was Iowa bad. Iowa was Purdue last few years bad. Rutgers, it was like almost Rutgers before Greg Schiano part 2 bad. It was real bad. And then Ferentz came in, had one bad year, and then boy howdy, have they had a lot of 7-5, 8-4 Outback Bowl seasons since then. And every once in a while they will sort of rise above, they'll sort of break through that glass ceiling, and they will get to the Big Ten championship game. They'll go to the Rose Bowl. They'll lose, but they'll get there. And that's pretty, based on what Iowa historically is, that's pretty good. Minnesota's not getting to the Rose Bowl. Illinois is really not getting to the Rose Bowl very much. Like, Iowa has been there more recently than either of those programs, than Purdue, a lot of those Big Ten West teams, Nebraska. Like, Iowa's kind of just consistently there or a little better. And, I know the jokes. I've made the jokes. We all know we know the pros, we know the cons with Kirk Ferentz, but this is one of those things where you look at certain jobs and you go, well, anyone could win there. I don't think anyone could win at Iowa, and I certainly don't think anyone could win as consistently as he has at Iowa.
Putting this together, the biggest shock is where I ended up putting him, and the body of work, the fact that they were pretty good last year, people don't like playing them, and I think that's a credit to him as well. You can forgive a father for wanting his son to be successful and really wanting his son to be successful. So we can forgive that. But I have not mentioned Kirk Ferentz yet, and I won't here at number 5 with Kyle Whittingham, who was one of the most desirable coaches 15 years ago in terms of, like, he probably could have gone anywhere, but he stuck it out at Utah, and he's got a really good body of work. Also a guy that you wonder, is he okay just 9-3, that sort of thing? Like, is he happy with that? Does that make him happy, or does he want more? And we'll find that out maybe here moving forward. But he's my number 5, and if this was 8 years ago, he's probably higher, or certainly higher, but this is where he is now.
Yeah, this is one where if this is 20, what year did they go to the Rose Bowl? Is that 2016? If it's 2016, he's like 3 on the list. And if it's 4 years ago or 3 years ago when they were in the middle of the Brian Ferentz travails, he's probably others receiving votes. But he has just been pretty darn steady for so long that I think he's Ferentz is in that category. Whittingham is someone who I think is basically Kirk Ferentz plus, like fancy dog Kirk Ferentz in some ways. And I have him actually, I thought, well, certainly the one thing I know is that these two guys are going to be right next to each other on my list, and then they're not. So my next one before I get to Kyle Whittingham is Matt Campbell, who I'm sure there are going to be angry Iowa fans in the comments telling me about the Kirk Ferentz, Matt Campbell head-to-head record, which Kirk Ferentz has won a bunch of those recently. But Matt Campbell is sort of the, oldie brand Curt Cignetti, where he went to a place where no one ever won ever before. And he didn't do what Cignetti did, but he got them to a point where it's like, oh, another boring 8-4, 9-3 Iowa State season. And it was like, those didn't exist before Matt Campbell got there, like did not exist. And so he to me now at Penn State, I'm going to be fascinated to see, can he take that next step at Penn State? Because he had no resources at Iowa State really to work with, and was in the Big 12 where everyone's just kind of the same. And you don't have, there's not like that big standout program historically outside of Texas and Oklahoma. So can he take a team with a little more resources and do more with it? Or is he just going to be 9-3, 10-2 at Penn State, and they'll be real annoyed at that pretty quickly because they just got rid of the last guy, because that's what he did.
I left him off my list. The random 4 and 8s and 7s and a lot of the 7 and 6s bothers me, like he does with Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern. And he's got several 9-win seasons, had an 11-win season in 2024, 8 wins last year. He's another guy. I just want to see if he can take that next step, or if this is who he is even at Penn State, like where he's talked about what a successful season is, and it's getting the most out of your guys, whether that's 5 wins or 9 wins or 11 wins. And I think that same approach may lead to Iowa State results at Penn State, because you do have more resources. So I'd like to see him do something with them. I also think I have some biases against some coaches where the fact that they're okay winning 5 games, and not that they're okay, but it's acceptable. So I push back on that. Like, it's acceptable at Northwestern. It's acceptable at Iowa State. And it's like, well, I'm not going to accept it. So I don't think you're as good as people say you are. And so, yeah, Matt Campbell, you're number 5. My number 4 is Kirk Ferentz. He's had some 4-win seasons and some 5-win seasons, but I don't care. I'm saying what's acceptable and what's successful. But overall, he's done a ton, and I thought they were pretty good last year. And it is what it is. Would I want him as my head coach? No. If you're asking which of these coaches would you want to play against if they have a decent team, I mean, he's probably going to be up there just because it's annoying. Maybe the best. Maybe we just put Iowa defensive coordinator up here rather than the head coach.
Well, I mean, you're talking about 4-win seasons, and you're talking about 4 on your list. You know what you do on 4th down, Tony?
You punt.
It's the brand. It is the brand. Yeah, and I think that was a team where they were not going to win the national championship last year. Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. If you put them in the playoff, they are a tough out for someone. Whoever they're playing, that is not a team that you go, oh, good, we got Iowa. Like that Iowa team last year was pretty good, and they beat up on a pretty good Vanderbilt team that had all of its starters playing in the what was that, the Citrus Bowl, the Outback Bowl, whatever it was. So yeah, that's I think he's someone who definitely deserves his flowers. My number 4 was Kyle Whittingham, and he just does all very similar to Kirk Ferentz. Went into a spot where he took over a better program than Ferentz did, because he took over for Urban Meyer at Utah. But this was a very good Mountain West program when he took it over, and then he got them to the next level. He got them into the Pac-12. He got them to the point where they weren't just in the Pac-12; they were a Pac-12 competitor, and all of a sudden they're a Pac-12 winner. And we were there a few years ago when they played in the Rose Bowl, and that is just. It's a lot like a Kirk Ferentz team. They have the stuff they want. They have the stuff they want to do. They're going to do it really well. It's going to be deeply unpleasant to play them. They are going to beat some teams that you would, on paper expect them to lose to by a bunch. I think we mentioned Caleb Williams earlier. Caleb Williams had a deeply unpleasant evening in Las Vegas, Nevada a few years ago against Kyle Whittingham and the Utah Utes in the Pac-12 championship game. And that's the kind of experience that a Kyle Whittingham team can give you. And I think he's sort of at that same basic stage of his career as Kirk Ferentz. He may have a year or two more than Ferentz does, but they're both kind of starting to wind things down. But I think very, very similar to Ferentz in a lot of ways to me.
If you ask me which of those guys I'd rather have coaching my team, it's Whittingham.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of him,
Yeah.
And so then my number 3, speaking of guys you want coaching your team, Dan Lanning, who, what else can you say? Still waiting for him to win the national championship. Still, he's been a head coach for like 4 years. This one is, he's clearly recruits like him. He's a likable guy, depending on, your perception and your perspective. But he's number 3 for me here, and I think there's a pretty clear top 3, Tom. Am I wrong about that?
I came into this thinking I would like to have Dan Lanning lower than 3, and I have Dan Lanning at 3. But I would like to have Dan Lanning lower than 3 because Dan Lanning has an awful lot of toys, and
Yep.
Dan Lanning has done a phenomenal job in the regular season. January counts too, and I know they beat Texas Tech. Texas Tech had a quarterback who was like not a quarterback last year. So, that's the Dan Lanning college football playoff resume is beating James Madison and beating Texas Tech and then just getting annihilated against teams who he played earlier in the season and played competitive games with and won in one and lost late in the other, and then was just non-competitive with in the game that matters the most. And it's not a trend yet necessarily, but it's like, it's a line. It has gone from a data point to a line now. And if it becomes a trend this year, then I think, I don't think he's on the hot seat, but I think you're going to have people starting to kind of wonder, like, is the boy genius, really, does the emperor have any clothes? Because you look at like Ryan Day's earlier playoff losses, and it's like, well, he lost on the last play against Clemson, and he lost on the last play against Georgia. And, it's just, one thing here, one thing there. It was 34-0 in the second quarter of the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. And then the Indiana game, I don't remember what the final score of the Indiana game was, but that game was like analytically final in the early third quarter, I think. So he has just been like non-competitive twice in a row. And that to me it's not a red flag, but it's like orange. And if you told me that we're doing this exercise in 2028, what are the odds Bob Chesney's ahead of Dan Lanning at that point?
It's not 0. I mean that's for sure. I think it's going to be interesting to see if Bob Chesney can get the most out of his guys, because I don't think Dan Lanning has been able to do that yet. I also think he kind of gets a pass. Sarkisian also kind of gets a pass. So when you're saying people are going to start giving him this label, I don't know if people pay close enough attention to Oregon to do that, but we shall see if, because it wouldn't take long to do that at Ohio State before you get a label.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of get a pass at Oregon because you're under the radar enough there for any kind of that blowback. My number 2, I'm going with Curt Cignetti. 2 years at Indiana, he's had a success at James Madison. I'm not in the I want to see more. I just think Ryan Day has done more at Ohio State than Curt Cignetti has done in his time. I don't think you're going to find a better coaching job than he did last year, Curt Cignetti, in winning a national championship. But the overall body of work is what has me going with Ryan Day here. You've mentioned how close Ryan Day has come at times, and I think that's a credit. Ohio State fans may say, well, they lost because of Ryan Day. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, but I'm going Curt Cignetti here. And then, of course, Ryan Day at number 1.
Yeah. So what's interesting is I have it the other direction, and I don't disagree with anything you said there. Ryan Day has done it consistently. Ryan Day has probably elevated the program from where it was under Urban Meyer, especially the end of the Urban Meyer era. Ryan Day has managed the program through a very tumultuous time in both these United States of America in terms of like, oh, the COVID season and how is everyone dealing with that? But also the college football world has changed significantly, literally every single year that he's been the head coach, basically. So I think he gets a ton of credit for that. To me, Curt Cignetti's won because both of these guys have climbed Mount Everest and planted the flag at the top. Ryan Day has a team of Sherpas. Ryan Day has all of the top of the line gear. Ryan Day has access to the very finest climbing equipment. Curt Cignetti's got like a pencil behind his ear, and he doesn't have any bottled oxygen, and his sleeping bag is like an old Incredible Hulk sleeping bag, and he got there too. And you don't get credit for a degree of difficulty, but also, this is like when you took over an EA Sports NCAA team, what did you want to do?
Yeah.
You wanted to go take Kent State to go win the national championship. Curt Cignetti pretty darn nearly did that. Like 15 years ago, you could have seen yourself taking, I'm going to look to see if I can get Indiana to win the national championship. Literally did it in 2 years. Like, I don't know. I think there are other coaches that could win the national championship at Ohio State. I think there's other coaches that could win the national championship at a lot of schools. I don't know how many coaches could win the national championship at Indiana other than Curt Cignetti.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a fair point. He basically free climbs Mount Everest, no bottled oxygen. As you said, he's like, what time is it? It's a Tuesday. I don't know where my socks are. I don't know where my shoes are. I'll go do it. And then boom, they'll be like, I'll be back by dinner. All right. So, and that's, there's nothing, you can't take away anything unless the NCAA decides that they can later on, but bad joke, relax. So there you go. There's your top 10. Tom, what else is going on?
I don't understand the question, unless we're talking about BuckeyeInsiders.com, in which case I do understand the question, because that's where we are launching a brand new Ohio State football community, talking about Buckeye football, a bunch of other sports, but really, I think emphasis on community. And we've got some very, very fun stuff planned. That is in the works right now. We will get you a launch date as soon as we can. That has been the most common question in my text messages, emails, and DMs over the last few days. We're working on it. Don't worry. We will get you a launch date. As someone who has built several websites in several different lines of work over the years, I can tell you, I don't believe the initial estimates. We'll see. I'm very hopeful. We'll see. Sometimes things drag on a little longer than expected. Yeah. So we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we will let you know as soon as we know more. But yes, that is, you can find us at all your usual podcast places. You can find us at youtube.com/@BuckeyeInsiders. Got the Twitter account, the Instagram account, all the yada, yada, yada. And we are in the process of building a pretty exciting team. I'm really excited. You know about Tony, you know about me, you know about Chuck, you know about Ross. Got a couple other folks as well who we have already more or less added to the team, and we'll announce those in the coming weeks. But yeah, a lot of exciting stuff coming.
Very much so. So thumbs up on this, subscribe to the channel if you have not. We know a bunch of people have. We do appreciate that. It's a great way to support us in what we do here. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.